Okay, so passion and possibilities. This is what I do mostly at Mountainside because, in residential treatment, they need to taste hope. They need to taste optimism for the future. They need to feel like better is possible. So this is a very airy session. This is me asking them to tell me about what they love. We're talking about their values, what they appreciate, moments in their life where they felt very alive. And we're keeping it present and future-based. Because they have a tendency, right, to when you talk about what you love, they'll go into ugly stuff in the past. And you're like, nope, we're gonna keep it here, So, when you ask someone about what they love, they'll tell you about heartbreak, You ask someone about wealth, they'll tell you when they felt the poorest. It's just like a human nature, right? We go to the fear place. So it's like keeping them, what is it? What would be the ideal? What would be the dream? We're identifying values and core desired feelings. So as soon as I'm hearing what's important to them, I'm reflecting that back. Sometimes I'm writing it and clarifying it. Sometimes I'm just speaking it back to them. But I'm making sure they leave the session really clear on what's important to them. And I keep digging. This is the number one thing I want you to hear. It has to be a felt experience. So they have to actually embody that feeling, the essence of those core desired feelings, or we didn't get there, right? And sometimes that's so disappointing, especially as a coach. Right, Dylan? When they don't get there, it's like, oh, God, I want it. You want them to feel the hope, feel the change. So if I have a client who brought up or who identified that fly fishing was actually I had a great one. This guy spent a year going across the world in a ship when he was 19, and he was very showed up very depressed all the time to group, and when he started talking about this, he lit up. So I just had him stay with it. Tell me more about that. What was exciting about that? What was it you were appreciating there? What was it about that person on the ship that, I just kept him stewing in it. And that quote, people won't remember what you taught them or whatever, they'll remember how you made them feel. He will remember how that felt, right? That maybe 10 minutes of just being in that memory and being in what was important about that. He was he left with a big smile on his face, and it was so nice. And you really want to keep him in that essence, so you want to keep digging. When I was, a beginning coach and I was scared of everything, I would ask a question and felt oh, I asked enough about that, I should move on, right? I don't want to annoy them by keeping asking them questions. But you want to keep digging. As a client myself being coached, I was always disappointing when my coach would stop at a certain point. I just started to get there talking about what I love and feeling it, and then she moved on to something else, another question. I was oh, I wanted to talk about that more. So don't be afraid to really just keep working on that one thing, because they're getting there. By the time they're really there, you're going to see it in their body. They're going to be totally lit up. And you're mirroring body language. So when people are talking like this, oh, and it's this, it's what's this? What is that? Getting them to see what their body's saying. The body's always speaking, and we want them to be able to see that truth too. Develop a relationship with the saboteur and the authentic self. Okay, so they already are a little bit in relationship with that saboteur, the addict self that's been bringing them down, but they're terrified of it, right? So what we're doing is, yes, we're wanting to build a relationship with the authentic self because that's the part we want leading, right? We want them to feel there's that highest self that's bringing them along. But we also want to build them in a relationship that's a kinder, gentler one with that saboteur. Because that saboteur will always be with them. It's in all of us, right? We have to work with it. So how do we want to be in relationship with it? Do we want to hate it or fight it or be terrified of it? Or do we want to, give it a cookie and have it sit over here while we talk about what we do want, So we're helping them see that there's different parts of themselves, and they get to choose who's driving that day.